Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Now today I'm covering Galio mid lane. Now Galio is one of my personal favorite mid lane champions at the moment. He's fun to play, easy to pick up, and more importantly, counters a lot of those pesky, annoying solo queue champions like Diana, Echo, and a bunch of others. But more importantly guys, I've actually got him at S tier within my high elo tier list and A tier within my low elo tier list. So let's get into the details. Let's start by talking about the runes guys. Now Galio has a very simple rune page, although there are a few minor alterations that you need to take into account before heading into each game. Now, for obvious reasons, we always opt in for Aftershock here because Aftershock synergizes very well with Galio's identity and his kit overall. It can very reliably be procced with Galio's W and E, and given that he always wants to be in the action, melee champion, just Aftershock feels super nice, so you always go Aftershock. Now, the first minor alteration that you need to consider is Shield Bash versus Demolish. Now, 98 or 99% of the time, you will be going Shield Bash. It is the most versatile, just best rune 98% of the time. If you are more of a master Galio player, you have a plan, you're duo with a jungler, you want to break side lane towers a little bit faster, increase the pace of the game, and maybe you're versing a very non-interactive mid laner, Demolish can be good in those situations, but for those of you, most of you, 98% of the time, Shield Bash is the way to go because it synergizes very well with the W passive, the shield. Now, this next row is extremely important to understand. Now, second wind versus bone plating is massive. I would say 75% of the time you will be opting in for second wind because second wind is very good against constant poke. Just any champion that basically outranges you, that's going to be auto attacking you, poking you down slowly. Champions like Orianna, Syndra, Victor, Nico, Ari, etc. Very constant annoying champions. The only situations where you take bone plating when you're versing champions that want to take extended trades within you and very burst heavy. So champions like Aurelia, Echo, I would say Diana, etc. All these champions, okay? Next, you always want to be going unflinching because it synergizes extremely well with Galio's identity, wanting to flash in, close the gap, get his W and E off, get his combo off, so that tenacity actually really helps him out. Now, for the secondary tree, you always want to be going sorcery. Nimbus Cloak here, this is what makes Gallio strong right now. This rune alone, it is ridiculously good on Gallio. Now, Gallio, one of the biggest weaknesses of Gallio before was that, say he TP'd in or he flashed in, he would just get kited. It would be really difficult for him to close the gap to get his abilities off because they're really one-dimensional. And now that you can't W flash people, it was really hard to close the gap. But Nimbus Cloak fits that void. It really solves that problem for Galio because you can TP in, you get the massive movement speed boost, you run in with your W, and you get a guaranteed taunt, full combo, burst, done. And same with his flash. Really good. This is actually what makes Galio strong at the moment. Now, this one's a bit of preference. The 1k LP Galio one trick in Korea only goes Absolute Focus. The reason Absolute Focus is quite nice is because a lot of the time you're just going to be full HP, so you're going to get the max amount of adaptive force with Absolute Focus purely because your W soaks up so much poke in the laning phase. This does help you with burst, it helps you with wave clearing, overall just a really nice quality of life rune. On the other hand, if you're more about utility, more about scaling, that extra CDR can be really helpful, but I'm a big fan of Absolute Focus. Now, the other little thing here, most mages you go double adaptive force into whatever resist on this third line here, but in tougher matchups where you're going to be getting auto attacked a lot, you can actually go armor in the second one here. A lot of the time, say I'm versing a really tough matchup, maybe I'm versing a champion like Corki or Nico or something like that, I will actually go armor and MR and just go one adaptive force. Yes, this hurts my wave clear a little bit, but my Absolute Focus makes up for this quite a bit, and this just allows me to just take so much damage, so much punishment, allows me to play for the wave whenever I want, and it's just really nice. So, moving on, summoners always go flash and teleport. I don't think any other any other summoners worth taking because TP is way too valuable on Galio for flanks. Proccing that Nimbus Cloak, getting into the action, just way too vulnerable, way too valuable, so always go TP. Now onto the builds, guys. Now, building on Galio can be a little tricky, so I want to make sure I'm very thorough here. The first question I usually get is, how do you know when to go 1 Dorans or 2 Dorans? Now, 2 Dorans isn't really efficient if you're already getting durability from your first item. Given that we already build Proto Belt on Gallio, which builds out of Kindle Gem and has HP, 2 Dorans isn't really that valuable and not really necessary. If you are in the situation where you get forced back early, maybe you get ganked early, you're in a tough matchup, you don't really play the early laning phase well, you need a bit of extra durability, then 2 Dorans, you know, it is viable, you can do it, I just wouldn't recommend it. A lot of the time, you are going to be durable enough to get to your 1050 gold to get this Revolver, which then will fast track your ability to get this Proto Belt. Now, why Proto Belt? Well, Proto Belt's good for 2 reasons. It actually increases his threat range because then the enemy has to take into account the Proto Belt boost plus the E and W range, the threat range, which is really, really big. And the other reason is that it allows him to do his push and roam style or push and back up the jungler style just by one-shotting the wave, and especially those cannon waves. So it's really, really good for cannon waves because Galio can struggle with cannon waves. Now, this is where the builds get a little bit tricky. So I actually want to start with the second row here. Luden's second here is very good if you get ahead early and you're predominantly the main damage source of your team. And you know that you're not the only AP source on the team. So Luden synergizes very well with Void. Whereas on the other hand, if you are the only form of AP on your team, then Morelos is actually a little bit better, I found, because you get an earlier spike of Magic Pen with Oblivion Orb, which synergizes very well with Sorks to give you basically true damage and a lot of burst. The other benefit of actually this third one actually gives you more durability, more HP, which complements Gallio's identity, and given that he's a very melee champion, wants to get in the action, more HP, the better. This is actually the build path, this third one, that the Korean 1k LP one trick actually does a lot of the time because he really likes the early spike from Oblivion Orb. Now, this one up the top is the very safe option. This is when you're versing maybe a lot of armor, but more importantly, maybe you're versing a lot of burst, and you just need to get in there, you need to get your CC off, you're more of a peel bot, you want to get in there, use your Zhonyas, then again, maybe get a second taunt off, etc. It's a very utility-based approach where you're not the main form of damage, okay? And then again, you just round it out however you need. And obviously if you're versing a lot of healing, then this can be really nice. But a lot of the time I find myself going either this one, this second one, or this third one here. And then for boots here, guys, I very rarely go Tarbis or anything like that, because generally if I'm versing a lot of AD, I'll just go Zhonyas. And I very rarely build Mercs. And even the Korean one trick, who's 1k LP, he very rarely goes Mercs. And the reason is that you already get so much tenacity from unflinching, and on top of that, Sorks is way too valuable for your burst. Like, Galio's all about burst, and I feel like even if you get CC'd, it's not a big deal because a lot of the time you're going to be flanking, you're going to have Nimbus Cloak, you're going to have Flash. Mercs isn't going to be the be-all or end-all. It's not going to be the difference between you winning or losing that fight. And because you're so tanky, Mercs just isn't that... It just isn't as valuable as Sorks. The burst is just way more important. So I do take Mercs sometimes if I'm versing a very CC-oriented team, but majority of the time I go Sorks. Now onto the matchup tier list, guys. Now, because Galio isn't the traditional mid-mage, because he's not all about the 1v1, and his matchups are very heavily swayed by the jungle matchup, you can't think of him in the 1v1 sense. You can't think of him, does he win lane, does he lose lane, does he get pressure, etc. Because if you have a Jarvan, if you have a Rek'Sai, you have an Elise, you have an Elise in, all these matchups completely changed. So the way I've actually done it is I've put it into 3 categories. The first ones are champions that you threaten, or you can just straight out wave clear and ignore them and just pay for push and roam. 2, these are the harder to deal wins where they just outscale you really hard, or you don't threaten them, or they're really hard to lock down. And 3, these are the worst nightmare champions which make the game really, really hard for you. So off the cuff, let's actually talk about this first one. So let's point out Diana and Echo. These are 2 extremely common solo queue champions that are really annoying to verse a lot of the time. Galio counters them both, doesn't even need your jungler, just a really great champion to counter these 2 champions. So that's why I love Galio in the mid pool. Galio also is very good into Kassadin. Yes, you won't really be able to kill him 1v1, but you'll win every single 2v2. You'll control river forever. You can push and roam. You can do whatever. You basically control every objective. The onus is on you to carry that game with your jungler to increase the pace of the game so Kassadin doesn't get to level 16, but it's quite easy to do given that Kassadin will do no damage to you. But then you may ask, why have you got champions like Zoe, Syndra, Cassio in there? Don't they just shred you and poke you and kill you? Yes, in an isolated 1v1, Galio doesn't really win these matchups. But with a few strategies that I'm going to show you within this video, I'm going to go over a lot of different laning phases. I'll show you how to completely nullify these lanes and how to generate threat on them. And either or, what happens? They take TP, you have so much threat that they can't play the lane and they have to give you pressure. Or two, they do take cleanse, you have TP advantage, you can play the lane in a way where you can minimize the early game, always play mid jungle 2v2s, and play with your TP advantage to stay healthy in lane and play for roam. So, or play for gank setup on that laner. So, these champions, yes, they will be hard 1v1, but it's a completely different story if you play Galio like he's meant to be played. Then you've got the harder to deal with champions. Champions like LeBlanc and Lucian absolutely pump Galio 1v1 in the early game. But as soon as Galio can get to that one or two item, like it's just one item, one core item, then Galio's completely fine. But in saying that, you may ask them, why do you have Corki here? Corki doesn't do enough damage to poke Galio out. Yes, that is true. 1v1, Galio is actually quite fine into Corki. But because Corki has really good escape with his W, you can't really lock him down and you can't really prevent him from farming. So he basically gets free farm for the whole lane. Yes, the onus is on you to carry that game because you will have pressure for a while and you will be able to do things. But it's really annoying because you're just on a timer and I don't like that a lot of the time. It's very similar to Azir, where, yeah, they're really annoying to verse because they can just have a dash and they can escape and they can take cleanse quite easily. And because their wave clear is quite good, they can just wave clear, push and do the exact same as you and minimize the matchup quite well. Then you've got the worst nightmare champions. Now, you may ask then, what is your ban for Galio? Olaf is my ban. I don't ban any mid laner. I only ban Olaf. The reason Olaf is bad, don't think of Olaf in the sense of, oh, you can't CC him, so he's really good into Galio. No. Olaf is good into Galio because he wins every mid-jungle 2v2, basically. Olaf counters Galio because Galio can never control River. You can never win mid-jungle 2v2 because Olaf mid-jungle 2v2 is insane. And which basically gives Galio no identity. He can't roam. If he can't win mid-jungle 2v2, then Galio is just a sack of shit. And so Olaf just completely counters that. Completely counters you. You always have to ban Olaf. Then you've also got some other really annoying champions, like Gangplank with CC. You've got these really tanky champions that you can't burst, and in extended fights you just get pumped. Like that's like Wukong. They build Bork. Eventually they get really, really annoying. Then you've also got champions like Xayah where you don't threaten at all. And remember, it all comes down to threat. And Xayah, you can just ult your whole combo. Morgana, Tam, exact same thing. So these are very tanky champions that can survive your burst that you don't have much threat on. These are the worst nightmares for Galio. Now, there's three types of early lanes, guys. There's number one here. We have Respect, levels 1 and 2, play off the bounced wave at level 3. Now, this is very common when you're versing very annoying level 1 and level 2 champions, generally when they're combined with a strong early jungler as well. Maybe like LeBlanc, Jarvan, Syndra Shaker, etc., where you can't really push out and you just need to catch that wave, catch those waves under tower, play off the bounce wave at level 3. Then you've got 2 here. This is versus a lot of melee champions where you want to get level 2. You don't really want to get shoved in because getting level 2 versus against melee matchups is very strong. But you also don't want to be hard shoving because if you hard shove, sometimes you may be under too much threat. Maybe you're versing a strong enemy jungler as well, like a Jarvan, etc. So kind of just keeping it in the middle, but not playing like a bitch completely. Then you got 3. This is the most common. This is actually what I do, I would say 85% of games. And I use this in my videos that I'm going to go over the VODs that I'm going to go over in this video. So stay tuned, but this is the go-to strategy. This is the one that I got actually from the Galio 1K LP Galio player in Korea. He does this basically every single matchup, and I was always fascinated why, and I'll get into that and get into the examples in a second. Now for my take on Galio's identity. Now, in my opinion, Galio's whole identity revolves around one single concept called threat. Now, for those of you who aren't too familiar with this concept in relation to League of Legends, I'm going to give you a quick rundown, a quick analogy to make it a lot more clearer to you. So, let's just say there's a street fight in real life, and there's two people. There's one guy who has no mixed martial arts experience, can't box, doesn't know jiu-jitsu, no kickboxing, no Muay Thai, just nothing. In a street fight, they're absolutely useless. AKA me, a gamer, I don't know anything. Then you've got another guy over here who maybe he's a ex-UFC fighter, he's a boxer or a kickboxer, does Muay Thai or jiu-jitsu, kick, whatever he does. He's an extremely scary, threatening dude. Now, I can just get one-tapped by this guy, right? So I want to keep my distance. I'm super scared. So if he walks towards me, I have to also walk back because I don't want to get in his range. What am I going to do? I'm useless compared to that guy, right? On the other hand, if I was a trained MMA person who also maybe I'm bigger than him as well. Maybe I'm also trained but bigger than him. If he comes near me, I'm not really going to be scared. I'm not going to I'm not going to keep my distance. I can just get in his range and, 1v1 him or whatever. Now, in relation to League of Legends, Galio is the exact same thing. So, Gallio revolves around having threat on opponents because his kit's all about burst, locking people down with CC. He's very scary to verse. So, 80 carries, a lot of mid champions, a lot of squishy junglers, they don't want to get near him. If Gallio walks at them, they'll run away. Or if Gallio walks into River, they're like, I don't want any part of that. I don't want to take a mid jungle 2v2. We just lose that. He's so scary. Now, that's why a lot of tanks counter Gallio, or a lot of champions that can minimize his CC and can actually avoid his CC aren't that scared of Gallio. That's why champions like Nasus and, you got champions like Urgot and Xayah, Tahm Kench and Morgana, they're not really scared of Gallio in that sense because they can avoid his burst and they can avoid his hard CC. Now, as a result of this threat, he's the ultimate 2v2 mid-jungle skirmish champion. As a result of that is the River Control King, due to his threat, because he wins basically every single 2v2, has insane gank setup, which is, again, no one wants to... if someone doesn't respect, then that's what happens. They can just get ganked. If they don't take cleanse, they just get absolutely destroyed. He can actually create space for teammates to get advantages because, again, he's so threatening in River. He forces people to walk back, allows his team to get objectives and so many other things, or potentially his jungle to invade because the enemy jungler knows that Galio can be here and they lose that 2v2. So his mentality shouldn't just be focused on the 1v1, should be more focused on the 2v2 and the map as a whole. And mid to late game is very versatile, depending on the composition. Maybe you have a Jarvan, you've got a Jarvan, so you're playing Jarvan Galio versus a very immobile 80 carry like an Ashe. So basically you just want to be diving the backline. But in other circumstances, maybe just playing Peel, using your ult on your team to counter maybe a Kassadin to get the magic shield on everyone, and playing Peel front to back. So you can play Galio a lot of different ways. Now, I want to quickly talk a little bit here about Galio in terms of effectiveness at differing elos. So this is a very rough sketch, but to give a bit of context here, I would say like down here we're in like bronze, and then up here we're in challenger. So as we can see here at challenger, Galio is the most effective. I would say Galio is very effective at high elo, master, grandmaster, challenger games, master plus. Then still really effective in diamond. Then it would probably goes down a little bit within like platinum because the junglers aren't good enough. But then again, and the people respect his threat range a little bit. But then in gold, silver, etc., he's really good again because he's just so burst heavy. People don't understand his threat range, and just a really, really solid champion. So he's good in all elos, but just more effective in certain ones than others. So I guess I'd say low is a little bit. I'll say this is plat. This is around like silver, gold. This is like silver, gold, and this is like master plus. Now for the misconceptions, guys. Now before we get into the gameplay, it's really important that I clarify these points very quickly. Galio is not only a support champion and not only a roam champion, which means you shouldn't and should never be in the mindset of compensation and sacrificing CS and XP. So what actually happened, a big problem I've actually seen with Galio players and why they don't view the champion as strong is because of this. They have this mindset where they just view themselves as a second support because they see all the utility in their kit and they're like, yeah, I have to just play for my side lanes. I can't do anything if I don't roam. No, that's not the case. If you farm a lot, you have a lot of XP, you become the most threatening, scary champion in the game. I promise you, and I'll literally show it in a VOD that I'm about to go through. So you need to be farmed or at least be even to have threat. And if you don't have threat, you're literally dead weight. So let's say, for example, you're versing a mid-mage like Vel'koz, you roam all the time, you sacrifice 3 or 4 waves, you lose 2 plates, Vel'koz finishes his full item, you come back, you don't even have a proto belt. you have no threat. You can't do anything. You can't wave clear. You're going to get pushed in. You're actually going to be dead weight for your team, which means that it's actually going to be really hard for you to get carried. So you can't do that. And the other misconception, lastly, is that he's only good into AP champions, which is just not true. Galio is actually very good into a lot of those AD assassins because he can lock them down when they go in and just play peel. He's very, very good at that. So that's another misconception. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to go over a bunch of different VODs. So this one's going to be really, really good. It's going to be very detailed. If you have any questions about anything in this video, feel free to drop a comment below in the comments or in my Discord. So for the first VOD of the day here, guys, this one's going to be Galio versus Orianna. Pretty bread and butter matchup, stock standard stuff. And the way I navigate this lane is going to be very similar to the way you would play versus 95% of mage matchups. Now, what are the first few things that I look for in a game when playing Galio? Well, as I said before, threat is the most important thing with Galio. So I'm looking for who do I threaten, why do I threaten them, and the actual level of threat that I have on that champion. So where do we start? I like to think about summoner spell choices. So I see no cleanses. I see no cleanse on the AD carry, no cleanse on the mid laner, which is big thumbs up. My threat range or threat level is actually increased on these champions. Then I like to think about kits. Well, Orianna doesn't really have much mobility at all. No terrain scaling, no gap closes, nothing like that. Whereas Tristana and Jarvan, on the other hand, have a lot of mobility, so it's quite hard for me to lock them down, which is not good for me. The other thing I like to think about, obviously, is the top laner and the support. Both of them are very immobile champions. Can't really get away from me. No cleanses, no way to escape. So, again, my threat range and threat level on those champions are very, very high. Now, if Orianna were to opt in for cleanse, then obviously my threat range and threat extent would be very, very much lessened. So it's something that you need to take into account, because if she does take cleanse and I don't really threaten her 1v1 or in those 2v2s, then I just play for push and move, and it actually dictates the way I play my waves heading into mid game, okay? Alright, so let's, and now, actually, lastly, I like to think about the jungle that I have. So if this was a Jarvan, if I had the Jarvan, or an Elise, or a Rek'Sai, then this Orianna literally couldn't play the game. I mean, she would have to sit under tower, and even then we could just dive her 100-0. So, she's lucky that I have a Graze, which isn't the best with Galio, because Galio really does want very ganking-oriented junglers, although it's not the end of the world. It's just something to think about, because that obviously increases or decreases the amount of threat that I have, with my team. And more importantly, I'm actually the only AP champion on my team, which is pretty good for Galio. All right, getting into the laning phase here, guys. So what's the first thing that you do in these sorts of matchups? You position to the side like this, and what you want to be doing is queuing through the melees onto the range creeps. This is the most efficient way in the early game to get the push. The other thing I want to be looking to do is utilize my passive auto attack on multiple minions. Sometimes these minions will actually stick together and your passive can hit all three of them, which is really, really good for pushing. But, you know, at least two of them would be really, really good to help you get the push. Now, the way this strategy actually revolves, it revolves around river control, it revolves around threat, and it revolves around keeping this guy occupied so that the enemy mid laner can't use abilities on you, because they're focusing all their attention, resources, and time and energy onto the creeps. That's basically how this strategy actually works. It's a really solid way to get out of the early laning phase, which is actually the weakest part of Galio's game. Now, the other thing you'll see me do is if this guy doesn't respect, what I'll actually do, if I see all these range creeps that are very similar HP, I'll just utilize my empowered auto attack, my passive, to one-shot all of them, because that's actually something you really need to get used to when playing Galio, is that your passive is really, really good for wave clear, and really great way to kill multiple minions at the same time while allowing you to use your Q aggressively instead of the creeps. So similar to Diana in that sense, if you can Q the creeps and them, or not use it on the creeps at all and just purely use it on the enemy, it's going to be really good for getting some serious resource advantages on the enemy. Because it does a lot of damage if you hit that Q. Very similar to Diana in that sense. So here I'm versing a Jarvan. So I know that he started red. So I'm actually heavy leaning on the bot side here, so I don't get level 2'd. Because we actually have a ward on the blue here. But again, because I'm leaning heavy, then I see Jarvan go straight from red to blue. So what I do, again, position to the side like this, throw my Q through the melees onto the range creeps. This is going to help me get level 2 extremely fast. And now if Orianna wants to freeze the wave here, she can do that. She's trying to freeze it, so she took a bunch of damage to hold it here. Look at that. She's already taken a bunch of damage. I don't care. I can clear this so easily. Look at this. I just Q through them, auto attack, auto attack, auto attack, use my empowered passive. Look at that. Beautiful. Get W level 2. Now, the beautiful thing about getting W level 2 like this is that the shield is so nice. This is how Gallio can get away with his pushing strategies, because when you push, they're going to be using resources on the wave, but more importantly, when those little windows where they want to poke you, they have to get through your magic shield. It's so annoying to deal with for the enemy. I've been on the other side. I've been on the receiving end as an Orianna, and I just don't know what to do if the Galio does this properly. So get level 2 first. Allows you to get your magic shield. Soaks up a bunch of damage. Again, utilizing my passive like that. Notice how I auto attacked the one that with the most HP, so I can AoE the other ones with my passive, like that. Beautiful. And now, this is what pushing on Galio allows you to do. So look at this quickly. Orianna's stuck under tower, spending resources, mana, time, and energy getting those creeps, where I'm able to get deep vision. I'm able to back up my jungler for aggressive invades. Now my Graves was able to do 2 camp into a vertical jungle here, knowing that I'm able to just back him up. And now Graves is able to go for an aggressive invade, steal the Grump away, and chunk out this Jarvan. Now, I go back mid lane, and I do the exact same thing. So Orianna Qs me, it does nothing, because this magic shield is really, really strong. Go back, Q through again. I actually clipped her again as well. She's actually used a health bot already. What you can actually do with your positioning, you can actually position outside the wave even when your Q is down, so that then the Orianna has to make a choice, or the enemy has to make a choice between queuing you or queuing the wave. And a lot of the time, these people, they'll have to use their abilities on the wave, otherwise, because they don't want to be sitting under tower CSing all the time. And the most annoying thing about this whole strategy is that even if the jungler wants to gank you, and this person like somehow got the wave here, you can clear it very quickly. And because of your smart usage of warding and the jungle tracking video, they're going to be so deterred to gank you anyway. Like, you should be able to track them regardless, but even if they want to come, you're so annoying to gank. You have Aftershock, you have your W, you have your E. You're an incredibly annoying champion of Verse. So this is why this strategy is so effective. So again, just push, utilizing my passive, allowing my Graves to invade. Now, the beautiful thing is as well about this in the early game, now I know Jarvan's 100% going to be on top side, so what do? I ward top side, because Graves took his bot side, but then for some reason Jarvan went straight bot, which caught off Graves and then ended up dying. So the enemy bot lane ends up winning off this. They get first blood, I believe they get, he gets double buffs, or gets red buff, sorry. So that's actually why our bot lane loses. So if we go back here a little bit, I ward topside thinking that Jarvan was going to go straight to topside, but he didn't. Not much I can do about it. And I was going to look to potentially roam, but the play was over. Now, push, same thing. Now I know Jarvan's in bot river, about to get scuttle. So I start to realize this and start just positioning my character on the top side of the wave here. Again, the beautiful thing about this strategy, like I was going to say before, is that if you continue doing this, what does this actually allow your junglers to do? It allows them a lot of the time to either bully off the jungler of a scuttle and take that scuttle fight, knowing that I'm going to get there first and we win that scuttle fight, or they can actually get double scuttle. So there's been so many times that I'm actually going to go through a bunch of different laning phases where we either kill the enemy on the jungler, on the scuttle, or my jungler just gets double scuttle. Because I'm just playing for waves. And yes, I'm not setting up ganks, but I generally never really set up ganks in the early game. I'm talking pre-first bases Galio, because I value the pressure that I'm exerting on the map. I value the freedom that I'm giving my team. I just value that river control in the early game way too much, because it allows me to get really good quality wards, allows my junglers to do whatever they want, allows them to invade aggressively, which is, again, I want to encourage my junglers to invade early, because I can get there first. And I want those fights to happen. Again, it's coherent with my identity. So, see Jarvan there. Again, just trying to keep the wave in, knowing that Scuttle spawned and Graves heading into topside river. So, and again, if I was getting pushed in here, I believe that Jarvan actually would have been able to get double Scuttle. He just would have walked straight across and actually potentially got top Scuttle as well. So I've actually saved my jungler's ass a little bit here. Another thing that you need to take into account, guys, I haven't actually mentioned, is your magic shield cooldown. So whenever you get hit, the way it works is you just draw your attention to this little cooldown here. This will tell you when it's up next. So sometimes what you need to do is tether abilities every now and then, just so your passive comes back up, so that when you do have your magic shield, you're just maximizing the amount of time that it's going to be up. And if you're constantly in combat, like then, if we see this for a second, it was down, so I was just tethering Orianna just a little bit and making sure I'm not in Q range, and then I walk up knowing that yeah, I've got my W shield. Much better. And again, same thing, queuing through. Now, look at this. And I actually believe this is, I don't know if this is due to absolute focus or not, but now already at level 4 with my Q and 1 empowered auto attack, I can actually kill the range creeps. This level of wave clear is absolutely nuts. You're not going to have that luxury all the time where you're going to be able to empowered auto attack the range creeps in a hard matchup. Because I'm versing Orianna, she's already used both of her 2 pots, because she's been trying to either hold the wave or CS under tower or taking Qs from me. I haven't even done anything, but she's used 2 pots and half mana pool. No one can actually harass Gallio enough in the early game to prevent him from doing this sort of thing. This is actually just what I found. I'm just leaning to my jungler's side, knowing that he's invading, and this Graves is able to invade even though he died early, because he knows that I've got pressure. And he knows because of my warding, and I'm just seeing Jarvan everywhere. He has so much information, so it complements everyone. Unfortunately, my bot lane's inting a little bit, but, you know, it's one of those games. And this is why I love this VOD. It's so good for this reason. My bot lane's losing, yet I still I end up winning this game. So, look at this. Orianna's still using so much mana here trying to CS all these minions under tower. Look how hard it is for her. Look at this. I'm shoving all this in. And look, she's so scared. She has to use her E to hold the wave. She's like, oh my god, I have to use W to get the cannon creep. She's just struggling so much. It must be really annoying right now to be her right now. So ideally, my first objective, what I'm trying to do is get to my 1050 gold and look for a reset for my revolver. So I have a few options here. I could have stayed for one more wave, and in hindsight, I probably should have stayed for the next wave, because then it would give me revolver and a pink ward, and more importantly, be basing on a cannon wave. But I actually thought that Graves was just going to straight reset here, so I really wanted to reset at the same time as Graves. I didn't think he would go for that top gank on a Vlad. I knew it wouldn't work, but he just shows and does nothing. And what this actually does, it actually forces me to sell one of my pots, given that I don't really need it anyway. And it gives Orianna... also, I thought she was Orianna was so that she wouldn't be able to stay for the next wave regardless. But she must have seen me base. I believe this might have been warded or something. And also, maybe because Graves showed top as well, she was able to do it. I'm not sure. But, you know, I don't think this was the best use of my wave manipulation. But... that was just the decision I made in the game. So in hindsight, I would have stayed for one more wave, knowing that Graves stayed on the map. I didn't need to reset at that time. Then Orianna wouldn't have been able to get the wave in if it was the cannon wave, because the next wave was a cannon wave. So it is what it is. I still get a bunch of tempo. Ideally, something I haven't really spoken about yet that is extremely important on Gallio is that you never... very, very rarely want to be using your flash defensively in the early game. Flash is a massive, massive offensive tool. So really try and avoid blowing flash to ganks. But more importantly, really try and avoid using TP to get back to lane. My biggest thing on Gallio, when I watch that high yellow Korean player, he always holds TP and uses it for side lane plays. Because combined with Nimbus Cloak, your side lane threat with TP is ridiculous. For whether it's TP flanks deep in the lane or just counter ganking in general. And I do it basically every single game. So that's the other reason why tempo basing, utilizing your early wave clear advantage, is really good for... just so you don't need to use your teleport. That's what you want to be looking to do in the early game. So combination of holding your TP, because I get here first. I don't even think Orianna really needed to TP here. Maybe she was scared of me getting a bunch of river control. I'm not sure. But she decides to TP, so which is really big for me. I'm already thinking about that. Wow. She has no cleanse and no TP now. So I can freely make a side lane play without her counter ganking me, which is really, really... I'm stoked about that. But it is extremely important that you do get a pink ward. Pink wards are essential on Galio because you want that river control. You want to exert that threat on the map. If I have pink wards, it means we can get dragons. They're going to be more scared to enter river, which means I can roam a lot more. So I'm always trying... oh, look at this. Then Jarvan goes bot. This is exactly what I want. Then I TP, knowing that Orianna doesn't have TP. This is what I look for every single game. As soon as something happens, I go in, bang, peel back with my Nimbus Cloak, and we're able to get a nice kill here on this Leona. So I just want to quickly talk about it. I know I'm talking a lot and maybe talking too fast, but I just get so excited talking about Galio. Now, literally this situation happens so much. I'm just chilling, I'm getting my vision control. Now, Jarvan can't come mid because they lose mid-jungle 2v2. He has to gank the side. Imagine how toxic this is to verse. You're playing Jarvan, your bot lane's fed, but you know that, okay, one or two things. Galio is hovering in river constantly with river control with his ultimate, or he has TP. One or the other. You have to accept reality that Galio is going to get to this fight first, every single time. So imagine that. He can't go mid, he can't control mid-jungle 2v2, so he has to play to a side. So he has to play to a side knowing that I'm going to get there first. That is ridiculous, in my opinion. And this, I literally do this 95% of games. I wait, I hold my TP, bang, they go in, and then I come back and peel. This was with a losing bot lane, and we still get a kill here, which is so nice. Usually what will happen in most games, this one play which will make my bot lane win. Unfortunately, they were so far behind this game that Pyke took the kill as well that we weren't able to... This actually didn't even make my bot lane win, because Yasuo didn't get any of the kills. But it's just one of those games. Now, and the other reason this is always good is because you're generally always going to get the shove on mid. This is a cannon wave. Orianna's wave clear is really strong. Really bad, sorry. You're going to be shut. You can basically out wave clear anyone. So you're always going to have these opportunities. Now, I come back. Get my pink ward. I've got my boots. Same thing. Rinse, repeat. Shove for wave. Utilize my passive on their range creeps. I mean, on the melees if possible. And AoE as many as I can. Now, there will be times where this happens. There will be times where your jungler is doing something on a side lane. He can't really come into river and control river. He's doing something else. There will be these lull states where you will just have to respect quite a bit because, again, there's no threat right now. Graves is showing bot. There's a play going on. I can't get there. And we don't have any river control. So she obviously has a bunch of vision, so she can play up very aggressively. This is also annoying in the sense that I'm quite scared to use my E aggressively a lot of the time because I don't know where Jarvan is. I know he's topside somewhere. He could be, hovering around mid. And if I use my E aggressively, then there's no way of me escaping, especially since I don't have flash either. I use flash in that bot lane play. It's just something to think about. So you've got to be very careful and very strategic about the way you play your lane, given the jungle's location, given your river control, and given the summoner spell choices and what you have and what you don't have. So now I know we don't have vision. We don't have vision control. Graves is showing bot. I don't know where Jarvan is. I don't have flash. I don't have proto belt. So I just got to be a little careful here. So I did try to respect. I'm just trying to respect a little bit, get my passive back. She goes too close, too far up in the lane. So I'm able to get a nice trade. If they don't respect enough, you can do these sorts of trades. We just absolutely pump them. But ideally, you won't be looking to do these sorts of trades if you don't know where the jungler is, or you know that you can potentially get ganked. So I'm just trying to wait here a little bit. Again, thin the wave because Galio is not good at CSing under tower. That's another thing that you need to keep in mind. Now, look at this. Again, Orianna's completely because she's trying to poke me. That's what you'll find. And it is important to pay attention to the enemy's mana pool. A lot of the time, if they spend all that time either wave clearing or poking you, they're going to go that's just the way it is because Galio is so durable, very frustrating to verse. But same thing, stand outside the wave, Q through the melees onto the range creeps, utilize your passive. You can also E the creeps like that. Beautiful. Now I know I can get a quick tempo reset. Ideally, when you're playing Galio as well, you need to be conscious of your jungler's location. You don't want to be looking to pressure and roam and do things and control vision when your jungler's in base. I can't really do anything at the moment. Even though I have vision control, I don't have any pots. There's nothing for me to do. My bot lane's just catching waves onto tower. My jungler's in river. Given that Galio's identity revolves so much around the jungler, I need to be always conscious about their location. So don't get too ahead of yourselves. Even if you're ahead in the early game, always pay attention to your jungler's location. So I just get a quick tempo reset, thinking that was not really much else to do anyway. So I come back, same thing, rinse and repeat. She has a bit of tempo on me, but ideally what I want to do now is either set up a gank on this Orianna because she's looking to pressure me very aggressively, or again do the same thing, get the river control, then look to hover aside. Now, So I actually ping Orianna because I know right now she has no vision topside. She's trying to aggressively pressure me. I'm pinging my E because my E is in 3 seconds. I use it to CS, so I was pinging it. Now I go back a little bit, try and get beta in, use my W, bang, flash. Look at that. So easy to burn a flash. And now once I've burnt that flash, we have a ridiculous amount of threat. So I'm timing that flash instantly. You've got to be on top of those flash timers, all right? When you play Galio, on top of those flash timers. So I'm like, all right, cool. So either one or two things happens here. This Orianna has to play so scared and just give me the wave in which we can control river, control objectives, etc. Or she doesn't do that and she'll die to a gank because she doesn't have flash and she doesn't have cleanse, okay? So you'll see in a second, I'm trying to keep one side pinked. We have bot river pink still. And now I'm just hovering in between waves with my R just in case Jarvan goes. So that's another good habit to get into is just hover in between waves if you're not playing for the wave. And if you think the side lane's going to get ganked with your R, just similar to TF in that sense. Now she's trying to pressure because she feels frustrated. Now this person feels frustrated because they don't want me to get free roams with ultimate. They feel bad. It's like versing TF. They feel bad to give me push because again, if I'm annoying their side laners. This person's probably getting flamed by the 80 carry, pinging, missing all the time because I'm just always out of vision. So this person's they're gonna get frustrated. They're gonna begin to compensate, and they are going to start playing for the wave, which then makes them vulnerable. Like this. Now we've burnt that flash. We know she has no cleanse. Bang! I get the taunt off, full combo, and then we end up just killing this Orianna really, really easily like that. Now that was, look at the threat range as well. This is what I'm talking about. Look at that. Look where she is in the lane. She is there and I'm here. Look at the range difference. Look at that. And she still dies here. She still dies here. Oh, that's crazy, man. I still can't get over how, this game is so fun to play, honestly. Like, what champion can do that reliably? Come on, man. Anyway. Now I, base again because I want to stay topped up, because if I'm not topped up and I'm not healthy, then it means I don't have threat, guys. So if I stayed in lane, right? Say I stay in lane at this HP, what good is this doing me? I mean, we lose 2v2s now. We lose any river skirmish because I'm so low. So the thing with Galio is that if you do get chunked, this is why you got to be very, I guess, what's the word? You got to be very... You got to be always on the ball with what you're doing with the wave. Because if I'm low, I want to be pushing and resetting, so I come back on that with full resources. I never want to just be sitting in lane on low HP. If I'm low HP, I need to find a way to reset. Either call my jungler to help me reset, or just hard shove the wave and reset, or just accept the loss of CS. Because again, if I'm low HP, we have no threat. We lose 2v2s, which again, Galio's identity just goes out the window. Okay. So unfortunately, I don't have TP, so I can't TP bot here. So unfortunately, my bot lane's getting absolutely destroyed. I was a little bit worried here, but we pulled through. So I think my top laner actually TP'd as well. My top laner actually TP'd bot and died. So my top lane's now screwed, and my bot lane. But me and Graves are quite strong. And Trist actually survives. Unbelievable. Can't really do anything. And I really need my Protobelt. Protobelt's a massive spike on Galio. Bang, she doesn't respect. I get a really nice combo here. Look at that. And one combo, she's 3/4 HP. Bang. Super nice. So, same thing. Rinse, repeat. Using my passive on the wave. Trying to group them all up as much as I can. CS as much as I can. Nothing too special. Now, given that I'm timing Orianna's flash, we know that we have a lot of threat on this Orianna. We know that she doesn't have cleanse, she doesn't have flash. If she stays in lane, we can literally just dive her. We can gank her, and she shows here with this amount of HP. So I'm like, all right, if you want to do that, I'm going to dive you. So everyone sees that. We see that we've timed her flash. Super vulnerable champion. And look at this. Nothing she can do. Boom. Dead. So again, this is the sort of thing you can be doing with Gallio if they don't take cleanse. And most people don't take cleanse into Gallio. And if they do, again, you're just going to have so much freedom with that TP advantage to play for tempo bases, to do whatever you want. It just means you just have to play for wave and move rather than kill mid. Or you can gank once, blow the cleanse, and then generate that threat. Either way. So unfortunately here, my bot lane loses tower. So this is where the game gets a little bit sketchy. The 80 carry and support go mid, so I'm trying to minimize until my Yasuo can actually come mid. But again, I'm really strong. So something that I'm always thinking about, I know that none of these people have cleanse. I know Tristana, even though she's strong, she doesn't have cleanse, right? She doesn't have cleanse. She doesn't have QSS. She has really not much self-peel. She has the buffer. She can buffer my E, but you know, it's not too much. Like I can still, if I can lock her down, she will get one shot. The other thing that I'm thinking about is I have two things here. I have teleport and I have flash. Now, when I have flash, it's like, you know what's like Dragon Ball Z, like my power level's over 9,000. That's how I feel when I have flash. When I have Proto Belt Spike, decent-ish CS, and flash, I feel like, you know, Vegeta saying that, like over 9,000 thing. Like that's how I feel right now. So it's always important to think, it's always important, this made me laugh thinking about that. It's always important to think about when, and be conscious when you do and don't have flash, right? So my power level's currently over 9,000. Okay. Anyway, so right now my team's, you know, being a bit of a burden, but I really want to keep, because again, something I talk about every now and then is if you can hold mid tower, this will stall out the game. Mid tower is, if the longer the tier 1 mid tower stays up, the longer the game can get dragged out. So even though this is quite inefficient for me, I know the longer I can hold it until my AD carry can come here, it's just really, really good for stalling out this game, because I need my Yasuo to get some items. So look at that there. This is an example of Tristana buffering my W, actually, so I know she can do it. Just limit testing. So now I decide to start path, get some vision down, get some wards out. Ideally, I really don't want this mid tower to go, even though I want to be in the side lane, I have TP and stuff like that. I need to make sure this mid tower doesn't go down. So I just play for a bit of defensive here. Now, let's talk a little bit about skirmishing. So Pike goes in, hooks this Jarvan. Now I decide just to play for peel. I know we can't really burst Tristana on the back line at the moment, so I'm just playing very defensive right now. It's important that when you play Gallio and you see your team go in like this, you don't just instantly ult. Think about it. If I just ult here, what's going to happen? I mean, not much, really. I mean, these guys are so weak. I mean, Pyke's going to get one shot. Yasuo is really, really weak. This Tristana has W, can just buffer out and just reposition over here and then start destroying us. And Vlad has TP. There's really not much it's going to do. It's just going to put me in a really awkward position. I know that we don't win this fight straight up. I need to play defensive. I need to play peel. All I want to do is defend this tower. This ideally isn't the best fight for Galio. Galio wants to play fights where your AD carry is really strong, and then you can play those sorts of fights where, say my AD carry was really strong in that, say I had an AD carry who was really strong in this position, then yeah, maybe me diving in with my ultimate like here, creating space for my AD carry for them to just mow down the front line. Yes, that would be really, really good. But we have a Yasuo who's really far behind. He's a sack of shit. He does nothing, okay? So me going in doesn't create space for anyone. Yes, it creates a bit of space for Graves, but I just don't think Graves can get in range of Tristana, and I don't think we're going to be able to beat this Leona front line at the moment, and with the Vlad TP, it would be a bad call. So, the other way of playing Galio in these fights is just peel. You just don't use your ultimate, unless you need it for the magic shield, which we don't really, since, again, Tristana and Jarvan predominantly just AD. So, I try to just play for wave clear here. And we end up getting a kill, bait them in a little bit here, but I'm just all I'm trying to do right now is stall out the game. So, eventually, we kind of stall out this mid tower. I believe they get it anyway. And what actually happens here, and this is a really good tip for stalling out the game, I know that we don't win team fights right now. Galio needs one of his carries to get to about at least 2 items. So what I do right now, instead of contesting this next dragon, I just go top. I just say give. We just give. It's okay. We can give. We can play to our spikes. This is okay. I know I'm very confident in my ability as Galio to win these team fights mid to late game, as long as I can play peel once we get a few more items onto my carries. So at this point, I know we're weak. So I give it up, I go top, I trade for farm, keeping myself as farmed as I can. So fast forwarding just a little bit here, the game kind of goes into a bit of a lull state, where everyone's just farming. I don't have flash anymore, which is unfortunate. So, in between waves, I can't go mid. We have no control. I'm just trying to, again, stall out the game as much as I can. Farm. Have to give up another outer tower like this because I saw Tristana played mid to top. Now, look at this. This is the beauty of Galio. Because his kit is so loaded with burst and CC and pick potential, if anyone mispositions, and this is the beauty of playing Patient with Galio in solo queue. If you play Patient, people will misposition and people will mess up. Like this. The Tristana and the Vlad are getting the top tower. Leona and Jarvan think they've got a pick on Graves here. I'm just chilling, wait for that opportunity. They go in too deep. Use my proto belt to gap close. We get a really good pick onto this guy. Vlad comes in. I chain CC, get a really big chunk on him, and use my R for defensive purposes here. Create space. Then we just move forward. Look at that. So the game, which was completely screwed. We're losing all our towers. Yasuo is really far behind. They misposition once, and then we punish. I found when I play from behind on Galio, as long as I don't compensate in the early game, I don't get behind myself, it's completely fine. Look at this. You can lock down people. You can take really good trades. You can play self-peel really well. And I believe we get 2 kills here. And we just back up. We take the 2 kills. And this is, again, great for stalling the game. Allowing my carries to get to 2 or 3 items. Okay? Yes, my Yasuo is not strong yet. But again, I'm so strong. I have so much threat. We can stall out this game. That's my mindset right now. So, I know that I'm the only source of AP on the team. So I thought it'd be really good to get Oblivion Orb. Also because I need that healing reduction for this Vlad eventually anyway. But just sitting on Oblivion Orb can be super nice. I was contemplating getting Zhonya's though, because Tristana's actually gone for a weird lethality build, and they have a fed Tristana and Jarvan. So I knew that, and Zhonya's would be super good for buying time for my team. So I was quite conflicted. This is a game where Zhonya's and Oblivion Orb's super nice, but I was like, you know what? I need to be the main damage source of my team right now. I'm going to go for a little bit more damage instead of utility. Be patient. And I actually, instead of going Morelos second, I go straight into Zhonya's after this because I realized I needed that armor because I was getting shredded. So now I have TP, pinging my TP. All I'm doing right now is I'm panning my camera, always looking for a TP because, again, I want to play for a pick. I am very good. I have a lot of pick. I have a lot of CC. I can lock people down. All I'm doing is panning my camera to look for a chaotic skirmish where I thrive. Okay, that's all I want to do right now. So I'm just farming. And then what actually happens here is that Vlad goes for an all-in on this Yasuo. I'm like, what the hell? He's so far. He's so deep. Then I see Jarvan. So I go for a deep TP here, knowing that I get Nimbus Cloak as well. But we just end up getting the 1 kill on Vlad, unfortunately. But I knew here that Dragon was spawning anyway. So this was our ticket to getting a bit of vision control around Dragon. They rift mid. They nearly get the inhib here, unfortunately. And then, what happens here? Oh, yeah, then I get look at this. All right, and this is, again, another perfect example. I should have actually flash taunted this guy. He was disrespecting way too much. But he gets in my E range, and then I just pump him and get a massive shutdown. Again, this is exactly what I'm looking to do on Galia. Just make these picks. Make these picks blow people's flashes. Make them respect me, and if they don't, we just kill them. So this allows us to, again, look at this snowball effect. You get 1 pick because Galio is super annoying. And when I have flash, I know that my power level's over 9,000. I want these scrappy skirmishes. I'm Galio. Any scrappy skirmish where anyone's out of position like this, look at this. Bang, chain CC, 1 shot. And playing these front-to-back fights with my team, I'm creating so much space. And if they don't respect me, they get 1 shot. So this is exactly what you want to be doing. And this is why, if I compensated early, maybe played for top too much, sacrificed too much farm in CS, then I wouldn't have that level of threat. If I wasn't going in the side lane trying to defend towers and not trading those objectives, we wouldn't have that level of threat. It'd just be a much harder game. So right here, my team ends up throwing a little bit here. Instead of going for the dragon, they end up like chasing. Get a kill on this Jarvan, but and getting out, but it just was not worth at all. I survive. Anyway, fast forwarding, we have to give Dragon again, so they get another objectives. But what I'm thinking right now is, because of that whole thing, we lose all control actually, and they end up getting Baron. And there's really not much we can do about it here because they're just so strong. Gnar goes bot with no TP, and we end up having to give Baron. So, again, same thing. We get punished for making mistakes. And I actually want to go back here. I should have called this playoff. I'm Galio. I know what sort of fights I want. There's 2 people dead. I can't get into this fight. I could have instantly flashed, but this guy I couldn't get on top of this Orianna. This is a bad fight. I know they're coming out. I know it's better for us to play for objectives, because if we play for objectives, we can control choke points. It's super scary for them to walk into no vision. This is not really the fight I want, but I didn't call it off. I was too late. I kind of compensated. Also had to blow my flash to get out, even though I got the kill. So as a result of all this, we have no flash. They got the dragon as well. I believe that's a third dragon. They get the Baron as well. So it's looking really, really grim for us. Again, I don't compensate. I don't just suicide. I continue to farm. I continue to play for my Zhonyas. I don't really do anything crazy. All I'm trying to do is stall the game out, because I know that, again, my kit is so good for making picks, like so. Me and Pike just making those picks, making those plays, create those man advantage fights, and then we're able to get nice true kills here on the back end. Again, stall out the game a little bit more. Anyway, fast forwarding to some things that are more replicable. Again, as soon as you see people split in the side lane, I can either use my ultimate or just walk around, just a scary golem. CCing people, killing people. Anyway, let's get to some things that are more replicable for you guys. Now, one thing that you should be looking to do in these fights, like, okay, actually, let's take this fight for example. So, one thing with Galio, like I slightly mentioned before, if you're out of vision, if I'm ever able to get to an objective first, whether it's a dragon, whether it's a jungle invade or something where I'm able to camp a bush, here is a kind of the same concept where I'm out of vision. I'm able to come out and start with my taunt. That's generally how you want to be starting your fights, with your taunt. It is much better like this, but you're not always going to have that luxury. And if you can't 100 to 0 like this, after that's done, a lot of the time it's better to just go back and peel. So you burst someone, try and burst someone. If you can't do that, then you just play back and peel. Pretty self-explanatory stuff like this. And we end up, I think we end up killing this Leona. Game gets very scrappy, a lot of kills. And this is why Gallio also thrives in solo queue, in the sense that, again, he's a very burst-oriented and CC-oriented champion, so, which, again, thrives in scrappy fights. So anyway, there's a team fight here. This was for the Soul Dragon. So this is very important to understand. So as I said before, I want to get to the objective first, so we get a bit of control, so maybe we can make a pick to create some form of a man advantage fight, pick someone else, catch someone out of position, etc., make them face check. Jarvan goes in to set up vision, Pike lands a hook into the taunt, into the full combo, into 100 to 0. Look at that. So we're able to get this really nice pick here before the fight starts, because we're here first. If I'm coming in late, it's much harder. It's okay to come in late if I'm just playing the fight front to back. But I wasn't super confident in our front to back at this point, because they had a lot of resources on top of us. But we had to deal with it. We end up getting that kill, and then we end up getting pentakilled here by Orianna. So he goes in. I'm trying to play peel. I flash straight onto this Tristana. We end up killing Tristana, and then we get up 4-man ultied, and then we end up getting comboed here. Now, we lose this fight, but you can kind of see how I played it. I'm playing off now we've killed the backline, or some of the front line. I go taunt straight away, flash taunt with my Nimbus Cloak into that, and we end up losing this fight, getting pentakilled and losing the soul. But again, not the end of the world. Fast forwarding a little bit to my last team fight. I just want to kind of talk about a few things here, to talk about team fights, because team fighting is such an important concept on Galio. Okay, look at this. So here Baron was up, but I knew I had TP, so I was just pinging my teleport, knowing I had Nimbus Cloak. I see them get off the Baron, but I know we can take this sort of fight because it's scrappy. They're kind of out of position. We have access onto their backline. Vlad's out of position. I start the fight with a taunt, knowing that I have Zhonyas as well. I can buy a lot of time. So I Zhonyas here to create a bit of space here. I don't want to instantly use my ult because I'm not really doing anything. They can just run out of it. So I'm just holding my ultimate for now, playing the fight front to back. Now I'm ready to taunt straight away, play this fight front to back, bang. Now I'm waiting to use my ultimate to soak up the Orianna ult. That's why I don't use it straight away here. I'm waiting. Then Orianna now goes in. I soak up most of that damage with my ultimate, play front, and then we end up acing the team and end up able to end off this push. So it's just so crazy. We won this game. We end up winning this game off just a few team fights, just a few little decisions. And all of this could have been completely different if I played these team fights different. It could have been completely different if I compensated in the early game or just tilted or gave up. I had a pretty good score this game. I was 8-2-11. I finished at 9-2-14. Really solid game. And I think this was like a perfect example of how you want to play Galio when your team is behind, okay? So now what I want to do is actually go over a few other quick quick VODs of some laning phases to kind of tie together all the laning fundamentals for Gallio. So this one here is a Gallio versus Nico, which is, again, a lot of people would say that's a pretty tough matchup, especially since she's gone glacial. Because I'm going to get poked down a lot, but the same concept applies. I'm still trying to play for the wave, maybe tether her a little bit more, give her a little bit more respect, utilize my passive on minions that are close together. But again, predominantly trying to push or at least match the wave so that she can't use abilities on me. It's the same concept. So trying to Q through the minions onto her as well. Look at that. How I noticed Q through the range onto the Nico. Bang. Now what you'll see is what happens in this laning phase. Nico takes so much minion damage. She's using a lot of her abilities on the wave. I'm not really scared of getting ganked. I am very confident in my jungle tracking. And a lot of Gallios, they'll be scared. A lot of melee champions, they'll be scared to get ganked, even though the guy's posturing aggressively. Like, no, you know. These junglers, unless they're a level 2-1, can't gank you before 2 minutes 30. So I'm just playing for the wave. Beautiful. Got all 12 CS just by utilizing my passive. Now I ward after the second wave on one side. Gives me a beautiful side to lean onto. But same thing. Now on the third wave, you have a choice to make. If your jungler's quite weak and you know their jungler's going to be in river and you know they have a stronger mid jungle 2v2, especially in this early laning phase, sometimes on this third wave, I'll actually let it come to me a little bit and just thin it and try to keep it in the middle. Or if I'm quite confident in our 2v2, then I'll just continue to queue through it and do the exact same thing like I do here. But again, my W is soaking up so much poke here. I'm just constantly queuing through the creeps, making it very hard for this Nico to focus on poking me because, again, I'm just making it basically impossible. Timing my Q in a way that's hitting all the creeps and trying to maximize my passive auto attack. Nothing too special going on here. Pretty self-explanatory. Have to give a little bit of respect here. But more importantly, I'm thinking at 3:15, if a river skirmish comes, ideally I want to be in some form of a position to contest. Because that's my domain, those river skirmishes 2v2. That's what I want to do. So I get pushed in a little bit, but I instantly clear the wave. So the wave's basically finished, knowing that if a river fight skirmish happens, I want to be there. So in between the waves, I hover out of vision, then I see Echo. Bang! As soon as I see Echo, I want this. I wait for him to commit a little bit. He goes in, then I know he's overextended. There's no blast cone, so I flash, taunt with my Nimbus Cloak, full combo, bang. He flashes after that. Now, Kha'Zix actually chases, and we end up getting a nice kill into this Echo. Look at that. This happens so many games. What are the fundamentals here? Fundamentals that I didn't allow Nico to slow build into me. I wasn't afraid to take a bit of damage. I've thinned the wave so much that there was really little control that Nico would have over me. I'm getting ready, priming myself mentally for this skirmish. I've already put the ward out knowing that Echo would potentially contest river. And if they do, then I'm ready to contest. I already know that this is exactly what we want. Even if Nico's here, I'm going in regardless. I wait for him to commit a little bit and then we go. I know my identity so clearly that it's not a question of if, I'm just going to do it. And this is how you test limits on Galio. You try to play for these early skirmishes. Now my jungler's ahead. We get all river control. Nico's going to be really scared to play the game. And it's rinse repeat. I come back. I do the same thing. I just continue to play for the wave. And I get myself a really nice reset. At 10:50, I believe. This time actually, instead of doing it at 10:50, I wait a little bit longer to make sure I'm basing on a cannon wave. So I don't need to use my teleport. And yeah. And then I base on a cannon wave, I believe, after this one. And then I recall. Nice. On a cannon wave. Beautiful. So this is exactly what you want to be looking to. So let's dive into another example. So this one here is Galio versus Anivia, which people would be terrified to play, but it's the same concept. Q through the wave, ideally onto Anivia, but if they respect, not really much you can do about it. Use your empowered auto attack on the creeps to AoE them. Try not to miss too much CS, take your time, but again, just make sure you're queuing all the creeps. And then for this next queue, you can queue through the minions onto the Anivia or just queue the range creeps depending on their positioning. Same thing. Again, this Anivia is trying to CS, hold the wave outside of... This is a common trend that I've seen, is this person, they always try to hold the wave a little bit so they don't miss these 2 CS or 2 or 3 CS to the tower. As a result, they get chunked and end up having to blow a pot. So either way, you're going to get a sustained advantage. Same thing here, using my Q on the wave, auto-attacking the wave, abusing the fact that I'm going to get level 2 very soon, which is the first creep off the second wave. This Nivea actually went for a very aggressive rune page. I ended up going for electrocute. So I ended up taking a kind of an average trade here at level 2. You know, not too bad. Now, again, same thing. Ward on one side at 220. Gives me plenty of opportunity to lean to one side. Now, this is where, again, I will try and Q through the wave. Anivia's trying to zone me, but I just chad my way back up. Do the exact same thing here. Q. I see Trundle. Now I know Trundle's topside. There's no way Ornn should get ganked. Now I know Trundle's on topside. Empowered auto attack. Q. Pretty self-explanatory. Now Anivia's taking a lot. Anivia's actually used both pots already from Qs and tanking auto and tanking creeps. Look at that. That happens so often. Happened in the Orianna VOD. Happened in the Nico VOD. They take ridiculous amount of damage from creeps because no champion can match Gallio's shove. They just can't. And this is the result of it. If they want the CS, you have to take the minion damage. And if you want to miss CS, then you're going to have your pots, then you're going to be down in CS. You're not going to have a good base. Either way, it's really, really annoying to verse. So, again, continuing to push, forcing Anivia to use so many abilities on the creeps. Look at that. Anivia's half HP, no pots, in a really bad spot. Actually got Ignite as well, so she doesn't even have teleport. So I know that she has no... I have a TP advantage over her. And now I get full pressure. I get full pressure because she has no mana on this creep. When I'm level 4, I can just Q, auto attack, one-shot the back 3 creeps. And I'm just in such a good position. Nothing Anivia can do. So fast forwarding a little bit here. Rinse, repeat. Anivia's trapped in the lane. I'm going to get a really good reset off. Now, what I'm looking for, and I know, is that Anivia's wave clear early is really poor, pre-6. I also know that she doesn't have TP. I know that she's relatively and more importantly, I know I have TP advantage. So what does that mean? I'm always looking for early skirmishes. I'm always looking for early TPs. I know their bot lane's playing very aggressive. I know this Pyke's playing very aggressive. He uses E aggressively. Bang, I go. Look at that. He uses E aggressively, I go, my nib is cloaked, I don't even need to flash or anything, and we get a free kill for my bot lane. Just like that, because my side lane awareness, I understand the situation, I know Anivia pushes really slow. Yes, I might miss, I missed 3 creeps. I actually missed 2 creeps of XP, but 3 actual gold, worth of gold, but it was worth it, because I get my bot lane winning, and if I get my bot lane winning as Gallio, what does that do for Gallio? That gets Galio, puts Galio in a position where I don't need to be the only, I'm not going to be the single sole threat of the team, which makes my team fighting so much easier, means I can play a lot more for peel, which makes my life just a whole lot easier, actually. So let's go into another VOD here, guys. And lastly, this one's going to be Galio versus Vel'koz. Again, people would think a very tricky matchup, but the exact same thing, where I go for a Q through the wave, fast forwarding, pretty self-explanatory, queuing the first 3 creeps like this, using my next Q on the range creeps. Bang. And then Vel'koz doesn't want this to crash into tower, so Vel'koz is actually taking 3 range creeps worth of damage. But I know I'm going to easily be able to get to my level 2. Q through the creeps again. Knowing that as soon as I get level 2, I get my W shield, which can mitigate a lot of that poke anyway. Beautiful. I get my second wave in a second. Auto attack. Q through this one, actually. Bang. Now I get my ward down, 220. I actually get a nice deeper ward this time to give my team plenty of vision. Again, push. Same thing. Make it really hard. Stand outside the wave. So, Vel'koz has to make a choice between me and the wave. This time, Vel'koz is using a ridiculous amount of mana on the wave. That's completely fine. I know that it's not 315 yet. And I know as soon as it hits 315, I'm going to be ready, rearing to go in that river. Vel'koz gets a bit of vision, I believe. Now I'm ready to go. I see the enemy jungler topside, I believe. Nidalee. No, she's topside. For some reason, my Echo is just hard farming. So, looks like there's not really going to be a skirmish going on. Fast forward, rinse, repeat. I know Nidalee's on bot side. I can just hard lean onto bot side like this, or just sit behind my creeps. I know I'm completely fine. I'm just mitigating this early matchup really, really well. Vel'koz isn't really getting an advantage he's using a ridiculous amount of mana. And again, I had control. I was ready to play for this fight, but for some reason, Echo just gave double scuttle because he doesn't know jungle pathing. He could have easily gotten at least 1 scuttle, but I can't control my jungle, unfortunately. Then what happens? I keep going, keep pushing, getting a really good reset because eventually this Vel'koz, because he's trying to keep up with my push, is going So I get my beautiful reset here, get my revolver, and what do I know? And actually believe this Vel'koz actually took... I believe this Vel'koz took barrier. Yeah, this Vel'koz took barrier. So I know I had TP advantage, and he didn't have cleanse. So what does this mean? I can make a side lane play. As soon as I see the Leona go in, just like the Pike VOD, I can go in, get my speed boost from Nimbus Cloak, flash for the extra movement speed as well. And then I get a nice little play. I blow flash on both of them and get a kill onto the Leona. So no flash Varus, no flash Leona, a kill for my bot lane, help them shove out and reset. That is game changing. Now my bot lane's going to win. Ideally, I go back to mid. I don't really need my TP anyway. And now just create a massive advantage for free. And you can see this happens every game. I somehow created an advantage for my team because of side lane awareness, utilizing my TP, utilizing my Nimbus Cloak, my strategy of pushing, my jungle tracking, all tying it together. This is exactly how you want to be playing. So go over the first VOD if you want to be looking at more mid-game, team fighting, etc., etc. These ones are just more of the laning phase, how to navigate them. Hopefully this video will really encourage you to pick up Galio. I think he's an extremely fun champion. Hopefully this video really helps you. If you have any questions about anything in the video, let me know and I'll answer all your questions. Cheers.